Hello everyone. Hope you are clear with the basics of the derivative contracts. So in the previous classes we are done with the types of the derivative contracts. Under the types we are completed forward contracts and the future contracts. In today's class we are going to speak about the option contracts. Before going for these, we'll understand the difference between a forward contracts and future contracts. See, here is a comparison. Forward contracts is there, future contract is there. Traded on an organized exchange is not there in the forward contracts, but the organized exchange is present in the future contract. So forward contracts are not a standardized contract, whereas the future contracts are the standardized contract. Involve a clearing house. So future contracts, there is an involvement of the clearing house, where in the forward contract it is not there. Required a margin payment and daily settlement. So let's see about the margin in the coming classes. Okay, so that is some amount, or it is like an advance payment that is not there in the forward contracts, whereas there is a presence of the margin payments in the future contracts. So in the forward contracts, markets are transparent, the parties know each other, whereas in the future contract the parties are not known by each other. Mark to market daily. Forward contracts are not marked to market, whereas future contracts are marked or updated to the market daily. So forward contracts are not closed to prior to the delivery. Future contracts are closed prior to the delivery. So under the future contract, profit and losses are realized daily, whereas under the forward contracts, no profit and losses are realized daily. Okay, so here is few of the practical aspects regarding the margins and all. So we are going to study in the coming classes. There are 4 types as I informed: the forward contracts, future contracts, which we have already done. The third one is the option contract. So before going for the option contract, let's imagine, let's take the previous example itself. We are entered into a contract of buying a banana after 2 months with another party, okay, by using a futures. Let's say we have used the futures. As per the contract, the price is mentioned rupees 35 per kg of the banana, but on the date of execution, the price in the market is reduced to rupees 25. So in this case, if you are executed the contract, future contract, then what happens? In the market you are getting the banana for rupees 25 per kg, whereas as per the contract you are going to pay rupees 35 per kg, right? So in this case, what will you do? If you are entered into the future contract, obviously you don't have any options to not to execute that particular contract. You should buy by paying rupees 35 per kg. But if you are entered into option contract, there is an option to not to execute this particular contracts. You can take a decision not to buy the bananas as per this contract. Instead you can buy those bananas in the market itself, since the prices of the banana is less in the market. Okay, so let's see what is option contract. So an option is an instrument or a contract which gives one party the right, okay, so to take the decision whether to execute the contract or not. You should have the right, you should have the decision making power. So option contract will give you the decision making power, but not the obligation. Okay, thus one party has the right and not the obligation, and another party has the obligation to perform the specified transaction or the execution of the particular contract with another party who is called as the writer or the issuer of that particular contract. So here one party has the right for the execution or decision making whether to execute that particular contract or not regarding the particular contract, and whereas another party has to follow the decision of the holder or those who has the decision making right. So let's understand it very simply. Option means one party has the option to take the decision whether to execute the contract or not. He is going to observe the market and he is going to take the decisions whichever is beneficial for him, and another party has the obligation So for a simple example, let's say as per the option contract I have to pay 35 rupees per kg for banana, and in the market I am getting it for 25 rupees. So what I will do, suppose if I have the right or the decision making power regarding the execution of this particular contract, I will not execute this particular contract. I am not going to buy the banana for rupees 35 and I am going to cancel this particular contract, and I am going to buy those bananas from the market itself because I am getting it for a lesser amount. Is it? So this is the beneficial for me as a holder or as a person who is having the right. Correct? So if a person is having a right to execute the contract or not, or we can say it as to take the decision regarding the execution of the contract or not, is called as holder of the contract. Very important word. Holder of the contract means a decision maker, and a person who is not having the right, a person who is having just the obligation or the liability to follow the decision of another party is called as a writer of the option. Okay, so here the person who is having the obligation, what he will get? He will get some fixed amount from the holder, which is a fixed. Okay, the holder has to pay it whether he is going to execute the contract or not. Okay, so this is a compulsory payment here. Option holder will pay some amount which has to be paid whether he is executed the contract or not. Okay, so one party has the right for the execution of the contract and another has the obligation. So this is called as a contract. So let's understand with this graph. In an option, if party A has the right to buy and party B has obligation to sell. Remember, when one party has the right to buy or right to execute the contract and he is going to buy, then it is called as a call option. Obviously the opposite party has the obligation. If it is a buying contract, then opposite party is in the selling position. Am I right? In the short position. So if a buying party has the right, then it is called as a call option where seller has the obligation. Okay, if the selling person has the right to sell, then obviously it is called as a put option. Okay, where the buyer has the obligation. So remember, under the option there are two types. One is the call option where the buyer is having the right to execute the contract. The buyer is the decision making here, and seller is the person who is having the obligation. And in this particular type of the contract, the buyer is going to pay the premium to the seller. Okay, buyer is the holder and seller is the option writer under the call options, and under the put option seller has the right to execute the contract. Seller is the decision maker here and he has the right to execute the contract or not to execute the contract. It is called as a put option. And another party, okay, so seller has the right means another party has the obligation. Okay, obviously there is existence of the underlying asset at an agreed price. This is the main feature of the derivative. See, futures and options both are almost the same, but only one difference is in the future no party has the options to take the decisions regarding the executions, but under the option contracts one party has the options to take the decisions regarding the execution of the contract and another party has the obligation to follow those decisions. Okay, so for the obligation he is going to get a some amount as a remuneration that is called as the premium. Okay, in simple, option contract is a contract where one party has the right to take the decisions regarding the execution and another party has the obligation to follow the decision of the first party. Okay, so this is called as an option. So option, there is two types. call option and the put option. When an option gives the holder of the option the right to buy the underlying asset from the writer for a certain price, okay, it's not piece, for a certain price on or before a certain future date, it is called as a call option. When an option gives the holder right to sell the underlying asset to the writer for a certain price on or before the certain future date, it is called as the put option. When the buyer has the right and the seller has the obligation, it is called as the call option. And when the seller has the right and the buyer has the obligation, it is called as the put option. And how these contracts are written. So let's see this particular example. Mr. X holds an option of buying 1000 kgs of rice for rupees 35 per kg after 3 months with Mr. Y. So option contracts will be written like this. So there may be addition of the word on or before, and sometimes they will mention the dates of the executions too. So in this particular example, X is a holder, has the right to execute the contract since it is clearly mentioned as the call option. So X can take the decisions whether to execute the contract or not. If the X is going to get the rice for rupees less than a 30, okay, less than a 30, then he is not going to execute the contract and he is going to cancel the contract. Whereas Y has no options. He has to sell the rice if X is demanded. Okay, so this is what the call options and the put options. So let's see some of the terminology. An option is a derivative instrument which gives a holder the right. So in an option, holder has the right and the option writer has the obligation. The option holder, the person who acquires the right to trade, is known as the option holder. The option writer is a person who grants the right to the option holders by receiving a premium is known as option writer. A person who receives the premium and grants the right to the holder is known as the option writer. Then exercise price, the price at which the option can be exercised. Okay, so this is what the predetermined price. So option premium is there, as I informed. The amount which is received by the option writer from the option holder for granting the right is known as the option premium. So here the person who is having the obligation simply will not accept the obligation, right? Because he is taking the risk, and for his risk taking ability he has to get something, so that amount is paid by the holder and it is called as the option premium. There are a few types of the option exercises. American style, which says the execution can be any time before the maturity date. Okay, on or before the maturity date they can execute the contract. European style, on the maturity date only they can execute the contract. So with this another style is there, it is called as Bermudian style, where few dates are mentioned in the contract itself where they can execute the contract. Okay, the execution date is already mentioned and prior to that also few dates are mentioned. On that date the holder can execute the contract. So that's it for today's class. If there is any doubts, mention in the comment section of the Google Classroom. We are going to clarify those doubts in live classes.